I had debilitating arthritis for almost 40 years. And eventually, after a long journey, I figured out some things that would help me along the way. But ultimately, the thing that really took me all the way back home, back to myself and back to my full health, these exercises are part of that. I'm Jim Cutzinger, and I'm the founder of Pashada. Pashada is a way of life dedicated to healthy living, authentic relationships, and cultivating your unique potential. But I want to say, if you're not in good shape, don't try them. You need to be a person that's active and relatively healthy. That means you exercise regularly and also feel confident that you can do two things, and that's one, to monitor yourself. Notice what feels right in your body. Don't overdo it. The other thing is to pay attention to the size of the movement. So I'm going to show you kind of a relatively middle distance. When I say size, I mean, is the movement this big or is it just this big? You can amplify and de-amplify a movement. So I'm going to suggest that you do them small at first. I'm going to do them kind of medium. So you don't have to go as far. You don't have to go as high or as wide. You make the movement smaller. You make the movement smaller, and you can do less repetitions. So de-amplify as you need, and listen to your body. If something doesn't feel right or if something starts to hurt, stop right away. The very first exercise, I call this, it's like ice skating. You see the speed skaters in the Olympics, they do this. It's a variation on that. You're going to swing, you're going to slightly bend forward, swing and walk forward like this. And what you want to do is put the side of the opposite heel into the palm. And you notice I keep my body open in the front. The next exercise is we're going to do a few different lunges today. And so we're going to start with just a warm-up lunge. A lunge looks like this. You take a step forward. There's a little space here. It's not straight, one foot in front of the other, but you're facing this way, and you take a step forward. And for a warm-up lunge, you want to step out far enough that you can sink quite a bit. One hand on the other on the knee, that makes it easier, and just lean forward and lean into it, and then take a step and do the same thing. For those of you with back trouble, when you're in that lunge position, for everybody, keep your body upright when you lunge. It's not this, it's this. And if you want to add one more thing, you can tilt your hips a little bit. If you have low back trouble, you definitely want to keep a little bit of a curve this way, your hips like this a little bit. This is kind of a warm-up. You do it lightly. You don't have to go very far. Take it easy. Notice how I stay upright. Okay, the next exercise, you're going to take your one hand here, lift one leg, lift up onto your toes, and come back down. This is going to be tricky. You may have trouble with your balance. I do. I'll have trouble with my balance on this too. One of the things that makes it easier is to go not too slow and to have a controlled fall forward. So here's what I mean. Like if I just get up here, I can start going side to side. But if I just kind of lift up and move forward a little bit, it's kind of a controlled fall. That makes it much easier. course, if it's too hard, if you know that's just too much, you can just practice this. You can do it in place if you want to. Our third exercise is the lunge. Again, this lunge, little space in between the legs. You move forward. When you move forward, see that back leg? You don't want it to go like this or like this. You want to keep the knees out a little bit and keep that leg like that and keep your upper body upright. On this one, we're going to add a twist. So you step forward, interlace your fingers, squat down, and rotate across the front leg. And then you take a step and rotate across the front leg. In this sideways position, you'll see how upright I keep my upper body and I keep my hips tucked a little bit. Okay, the next exercise is a kick. It's for the hip, it's a rotation in the hip, and you take this side of that heel and put it toward the palm. The heel goes right in the center of the palm of the hand. So it's not just the leg movement, it's also the coordination of trying to get the side of that heel to go right into the palm. Now, here's the cheat. The cheat would be like this. I reach down for it. That's not what we're doing. In fact, this is practice in isolating the hip movement. So in fact, I even lift my sternum a little bit, lift a little bit, keep my head upright, and do this. Keep my eyes at the horizon. So you do that, and then you take a step, and you do another one. This is a fairly easy exercise, but it helps you to recover, and it opens up the hips and the low back. And exhale. I forgot to mention that earlier. Exhale on the movement. Inhale on the step. Okay, we're going to go to our next lunge. This next lunge is going to have a movement like this on it, and I want to just give you a chance to loosen up your upper back and your thoracic rib cage. Spread your feet out, unlock your knees, tuck your hips a little bit, and keep your upper body upright. It's almost like you're getting ready to sit down, just slightly, not very deep, and your toes are either parallel or slightly out. And so what you want to do is tuck your hips, swing, tuck your hips, swing. In case you lose the tuck, always check at the top. I'm able to just hold the tuck. And this is the tuck, like this, holding it like this. That's without the tuck. That's a different movement. This movement, this position, protects your low back. If you have low back trouble, you want to be really careful to do this, certain that you're doing this. Okay, and let's watch it from this side. And you notice there's no rotation in my torso or my shoulders or my head. It's not like this. It's not like this. It's everything straight. Like there's two panes of glass, one in front of me and one behind me. When I was doing it from the side, you probably saw that. This is a great exercise for the hips and the upper body and the shoulders. It's very easy. Large motor movements are fantastic for stimulating your vitality. So if you feel comfortable, let it be large. Stretch into it a little bit. I'm not using a lot of force, but I'm allowing myself to stretch out. Okay, that's the warm-up for the third lunge. The third lunge we're going to do is, again, the baseline is this, a little space in between. When you go down, keep that back heel up, straight up, don't rotate the back leg. Keep your upper body up, tilt the hips, tuck the hips. Okay, that's the movement. And this one's going to look like this. I'll show it to you in both directions. One hand goes up, this hand swings around to aim at your heel, and you look towards your heel. If you're real flexible, you'll see your heel. I can almost see it, but I can't quite see it. The trick is not to collapse into this turn like that, but to lift up and turn. Okay? I'll let you see it from the side. You really got to be stable and pay attention to getting this solid. Otherwise, you'll just fall over. This is an incredible practice for stabilization. Okay, that one's really hard. That's by far the hardest one. Okay, the next exercise, you hold that hand out in front of you and you kick towards it. You keep your shoulders square. I mean, you have to reach out, but you keep your body relatively forward and upright. You can bend the leg slightly. I wouldn't bend it much, but you don't have to keep it locked stiff straight, especially if you have low back trouble. Keep the knee bent like that. You just swing it, bring it back down. Here's the cheat that you want to avoid. That a lot of you may do this naturally. I certainly did, and that's to do this. See my back? See what I'm doing with my back? That's not it. This is it. Lean back if you have to. I even lean back a little bit. Okay, here we go. This one's fairly easy after that last lunge. Okay. The next exercise. Take a wide stance. Some of you, this will be a wide stance for some people. This will be a wide stance. I have big, long legs, so I can take a wider stance. This is a push forward and a squat. It's not a knee squat, it's a hip hinge. So let's talk about how to think of this so that you protect your low back and you get the most benefit out of it. The first thing about any kind of squat, we're going to be doing a one-sided squat, but any kind of a squat is watch what moves first. Do you see I'm leading with the hips and I'm keeping my upper body upright? The other thing is this movement, you don't tuck the hips, you roll them to keep that curvature in your spine. And this is really hard for a lot of men because there's a tendency to do this. So you'll have to do this intentionally with attention and with force and with a little bit of force. It'll have to feel unnatural. So you tuck the hip and you go down and you lean back and you hinge from the hips. Okay. That applies to a regular squat. This is not a regular squat we're doing. This is a martial arts kind of exercise. Fantastic exercise. So, shoulders back, upright, look toward the horizon. Make sure your knees are wide, not caved in. Knees stay out. Feet are in alignment with, are just angled out just enough that you can track. We're going to do one leg at a time, that you can track that leg right over that knee. And then I look here and I can go see that knee goes right over my toe. That's how we're going to do this, but it's going to go farther. So you start like this, you start moving your hips back, You initiate with your hips and lean forward, keeping your upper body up, keeping your head up, and push forward, which will act as a counterbalance. Now you can go back farther. And then squat down. At the same time you do the push, you squat more deeply into the lunge. Come back up, and when you're coming back up, pull. And just imagine if you were pulling a really heavy weight. So you're going to tighten your muscles, push your feet into the ground, lock your hips, tighten your whole torso, tighten your whole body, full body tension, and then do it again. Tense, lift up, push back with your hips, push as if push the mountain, push, pull back, push, pull back, lead with your hips. And then we're going to do the other side, push, pull back, push, pull back, push, pull back, push, pull back. You know, once you're doing these on your own, you can do like 10, 15 reps, up to 20 on each side. It's a great exercise. Really stabilizes the low spine, does a lot of things. I want to say something about large motor movements. You notice how large all these movements are. Large motor movements give you absolutely the best benefit of exercise. If you're doing large movements that you have to think about your alignment and your balance at the same time and take up a lot of space doing these moves, you're amplifying the benefits, the effect, and you're amplifying the training of your capabilities. It's the gold standard for anti-aging. It's the gold standard for combating memory loss, for coordination problems. It's the gold standard for being able to do whatever you want to in your life, and for being able to play sports, being able to, at any age you can do this. You can build up to this by training at the right level. You may have to do all these super tiny. If you're 90 years old, you have to do them super tiny. All these exercises can be done way, way easier than what I'm showing you. Imagine this little triangle there. And it's kind of where if you were to reach down with your back straight and just hinge from the hips and kick the back leg out, you would reach towards. Now, this is a hip hinge. It's not your upper body doesn't collapse. You're using your legs and your hips, and you're stabilizing your spine. So the back is stabilizing. And the working, one hand is up and the opposite leg is down. Okay, so it looks like this. You go to here, and then you go to here, and then you go to here. I want you to see this from the side so you can see what we're going for. What we're going for is attempting to keep somewhat of a straight line between the hips, the hands, and the feet. So it's not rigid. You don't have to be totally stretched out, and like this. So that leg comes up. Ideally, that leg comes up so that your whole thing is going like that. So that your hands and your hips are shifting on an axis around your hips. It's a hinging from the hips. Raise your left arm and your left leg. Get onto the front. If you start to lose your balance, just do whatever you need to do to recover. You can stop, restart, reset yourself. There's a lot of little things you can do, like I'm a little out of balance now. You can see if you can correct, you can slow down, come back up. If you need to, put your foot down. If you don't need to, keep your foot up. Center, one side, and to the other side. When I look at my triangle, I'm going clockwise, just like a clock around my triangle. There's the center. You can do 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18 sets of 3. I think we just did 12. Four sets of 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale down. Inhale up. 7, 8, 9. Okay, so I want to say one more thing about balance. The beauty of this large-scale, grand motion, large motor movement, large range of motion, taking up a lot of space, trying to keep your balance. When you get to the point, when you work on an exercise like when this, I hit points at which I'm not in balance. I'm off kilter, and I'm like, whoa. I want to tell you what a good thing that is and how important it is to get out of your comfort zone with balance and what happens there. If you do that, and you do it just strong enough, which I think I was right on the edge of here, really challenging my balance enough that I feel like, whoa, I could fall. I know I could actually almost fall, or I could tip over. I would catch myself. But what happens then is the brain lights up, and the brain goes into something called, that I heard of described as hyper learning mode. And what it is it's a high alert status for your brain. Your brain really wakes up and starts getting ready. There's a level of healthy fear, there's a level of stress. It prepares, it stresses up to be ready for you to protect yourself from a fall. But it also goes into hyper learning mode because it becomes incredibly alert, and your brain becomes much more alert. It's paying way more attention than you usually do. And what that does is there's also a boost of fear in there. And what that does, first of all, it becomes embedded in your mind. Your mind remembers that challenge and that fear. The second thing is, and I'm going to tell you why that's good. And the second thing is it upsets your homeostasis. Homeostasis is the normal way your body's used to doing everything. It has all these limits. It has a limit to what there's a body of things you do comfortably. You do them well. They're not particularly difficult, and they're within your vocabulary of movement. What happens when you go well outside your vocabulary of movement and you do something, it really is upsetting and stressful and upsets that homeostasis. That's what you have to do. You have to upset the homeostasis. That's literally what they mean when they say get out of your comfort zone. Because if you don't do that regularly, you don't grow. And if you have intractable problems and you don't grow, you won't heal. You won't recover. So you need to have something that doesn't just maintain. You need to have an area where you find where you can grow and increase your capabilities and get out of your comfort zone, because what that does is it applies the great principle, what I call adaptability. Others have called it that too. Adaptability is your friend. So how it works is you create this tension, this event where you do something that's out of your comfort zone, and your brain goes into hyper learning mode, and your whole body does. Your whole nervous system and your memory all go into hyper learning mode. And then when you rest, it gets to work. It goes to work and starts rebuilding things and upgrading the systems, doing everything it can. It calls on that adaptability process that we all have. And it's very powerful because it's connected to our survival, but we don't use it much, so it goes dormant. So calling forth that adaptability, stress, the right stress, within a safe zone where I don't get hurt but takes me out of my comfort zone, is ideal. You have to understand the cycle of how to do it though. You do that stress up to a certain level, enough to where you can really tell, wow, I've really done something. This is like kind of kicked my butt a little bit, or you can tell it kind of shakes you up a little bit. Once you've done that, you have to rest. Take a day off. You know, if you're a beginner or novice or intermediate exerciser, take at least a day off. Come back and do it in 2 days. Do it 3 times a week. What happens is you have that stress, upset the homeostasis, you feel rattled, you rest, the body adapts, and that adaptability starts, all your systems start gearing up to handle whatever that thing was, because it remembers exactly what you were doing and what is needed and where your body is insufficient. So it calls that forth, and all your systems work on this. Your bodily fluids, your joints, the synovial fluid, your ligaments, the soft tissue, the hard tissue, the muscles, the bone density, the marrow, all those things respond. When you have this kind of exercise, it calls for the whole system to adapt. And this I found out, which I understood is how you learn, and I understand that's how you grow, but I didn't realize that's how we can tap into healing energies that are normally just not, are basically kind of, most people don't know. I certainly didn't. So, our next exercise is called the convict squat. I'm glad I showed you at the beginning. The same rules apply. Knees out, knees out. I'm going to show you from the side. The hardest thing for a lot of people, I've noticed that women get this a lot easier than men, and a lot of women do it naturally, but that's to keep this curve in the back like this. To keep that curve in the back, so it's not this. That's the wrong thing. You see this roundness? You want to keep that curve. So you lead by hinging, your legs go back and you hinge like that. See that movement? It's like that. And you lead with that. And that's how you take a squat. And you keep your sternum up. You want to protect that low back. You're training yourself in stability, and you're going to engage what's called the posterior chain. All these are the biggest muscles in your body. And when you do it like this, you're letting those big muscles carry all the load. Very different from doing this. Now, just some little muscles, it's all on your knees. The other nice thing is this movement helps to stabilize the knees. This position, most people say don't bend too far or you hurt your knees like this. But if you train and work for a while and you bend your knees like this, you can bend your knees a lot this way, because these muscles are doing all the work. And right now the knee joint is just in balance. The knee joint actually comes into balance right there. It actually balances and positions it correctly. Interlace your fingers, stay upright, push back, tilt your hips, sink down, and come up. A quarter squat, same movement, just take it to a quarter squat. Half squat, it's a little farther. Push your knees out. You see I'm pushing my knees out, tracking them over my toes. Now I'm going to go to a full squat. These are level with the ground. That's a full squat. Very hard for me. And for people that have done a lot of squats, you can do what's irreverently known as ass to the grass. But I'm using all these muscles. That's a different kind of squat than what most people will do. Most people will squat like this. Body forward, all the weight on the knees, and all the weight on the front thighs. I'm using the posterior chain. Always exhale on the exertion and inhale on the release. I'm going to inhale down. One of the key things to remember, watch how I drive my knees apart. It's not this. A lot of people do this. That's not good for the knees. Okay, I want to thank you. That's a good workout. I want to thank you so much for sticking with me today. This is actually the warm-up for the full workout. But I wanted to go into a lot of depth and detail on it because I think that's very important, especially, when there's nobody watching you. You're doing this on your own, or maybe you can do these with somebody else. But I wanted to make sure you had the understanding and to remind you really to pay attention, to listen to your body and trust what your body's telling you. Trust what your body's telling you and stay present. Stay present. I would not recommend jumping into trying to rule the world or kick butt right out of the gate unless you already know that's where you're at. And And believe me, if that's where you're at, you know it. You don't know that by accident. And so if you haven't been exercising, you have to do these super light. I wouldn't even recommend these. If you haven't been exercising, I would recommend you at least do some aerobic walking 3 times a week for an hour, and do something that takes some strength, and do something that takes some balance, and be active. You got to be active. Otherwise, you shouldn't take this on. This calls for a commitment to your health and to your future and to your participation in life. So greater health. Pashada really focuses on healthy living, and a keystone of it is creating greater health. And greater health is not being healthy and feeling okay. That's not greater health. Greater health is cultivating your health, taking it as a gift and a responsibility, and using it and investing your energy and time into your health in a way that gives longer and longer term benefits and longer returns on the time you put in, and that have incredible side effects of less disease, side effects of higher level of function, side effects of happiness and mood and better interactions with people and better income. So many things are possible. I know it might seem strange, but when your whole body changes your mood and it changes your personality, it brings out the best in you, it activates your potential. What we're capable of gets activated by this adaptability, so that the whole world begins to open up. It continues to be work, but it's the best endeavor it's the highest thing I can think of. I'm here trying to do the best thing I can imagine I could possibly do, and this is what I'm doing right here. So thanks for hanging in with me. I really appreciate it. I hope you get something out of this. I hope you make a commitment to taking care of yourself and to having the life that you were made to have. And I hope that you take something from these exercises, but at the very least, and my blessing is that you take this as inspiration and determination and faith in a greater possibility, no matter what your health is, no matter what your condition is, that you can take this into your hands and make a difference. So I'm Jim Cutzinger. I'm the founder of Pashada. Pashada is a way of life dedicated to healthy living, authentic relationships, and cultivating your unique potential.